So every AI tool has the same flaw. It forgets you. You create a new sections, it goes into a blank state, and you start all over again. The lab behind Hermes, Nomos, and Psyche models decided to build the agent themselves. They are not a startup wrapping someone else's API. So they are model trainers building tools that they will actually use. So they call it Hermes, the agent that gets smarter the longer it runs. So what's Hermes Agent? So it's an autonomous AI agent with built-in learning loop. So it's self-improving. It runs everywhere. You could run it on your laptop, on a 5K VPS, or even on your Android phone via Temux. It lives where you do. You could have a Telegram, your Telegram bot connected to it. It has 70 plus building tools. It's the talk of the town. So I'm going to be guiding you on how you set up a Hermes agent and get it running. So this is the Hermes agent homepage. So here you're just going to install. Simple. You just copy this line and take it to the terminal. Now we are in the terminal. So in the terminal, we just need to paste that command. So we just click paste, and that's it. And then this is how to install the Hermes agent. And then we just give it some time. As you could see here, in my case, I already have it installed. But if you don't have it installed, then you're going to discover that it's not going to go through the same process as mine. So let's just wait for it to finish installing. Immediately, it jumps into this space where it actually asks you to provide your model provider. So here you could choose like OpenAI. So in this video, I'm going to be using the Zifu, which is the ZAI, because I already have that configured. So I'm going to show you how you're going to configure this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move down. So I'm going to move down here to whatever provider is of my choice. So in case of this case, I'm using ZAI. So I'm going to select ZAI. So when I select ZAI, you could see here that it already has my API key. So if I don't have an API key, it's going to ask me to provide my API key. So I'm going to provide the API key and also provide the base URL. So I'm going to show you shortly in the ZAI portal how you could get both the API key and the base URL. So what I did here is that I searched for API docs, then it opened the docs of ZAI. So here you could see they have the API key here. So I'm going to go to the API key section. So you could use any provider of your choice. It doesn't really matter. So in the API section here, I'm going to see my API keys. So this is the most important aspect because with your API keys, you can create a new API key. And I use this because it gives me kind of like, I'm not kind of like marketing for them, but they give me kind of a subscription that is okay for me to build my application. So I pay like an $80 plan and it really takes me through building most of the stuff that I do and working with like OpenClaw, Hermes, and even the Guanpa. So this is all you need. You copy your API key, just like I showed you here, and then you take it back to Hermes, and then you're going to provide the API key. If maybe you're confused about like how to the base URL, you could also check it in the docs and copy it as well. So but this also applies to any of the provider you choose at the end of the day, whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Anthropic or whatever. So it's the same process that you're going to use. So we are back to the terminal. So here we just need to accept here, and then he's asking me for a default model. So I'm going to choose my default model. In this case, I'm going to be using the GLM 5.1. This is kind of like I wouldn't say it's at par with like Opus 4.7, but it gives you almost close to what Opus 4.7 gives you. And then you could actually walk around add some skills and do some engineering around it to actually give you the kind of experience you will want from the top tier models like others. So now it's basically asking me if I want to add another credentials. In this case, I'm going to say no. So I'm okay with just having that. And then if you want to add like more providers, you could add, for example, you could add like OpenRouter. I seem to use that a lot. So you see here. So here it's asking for a TTS provider. So TTS provider, so text to speech provider. So here I'm going to be using like the free version. So you see there's Kitten TSS and the current one I'm using is HTSS. So this one doesn't require API keys. And that's why I'm going to be choosing one of them. So here it's asking me basically, where are you going to be running your agent? So are you going to be running it locally? Are you going to be using Docker? Are you going to be using like serverless cloud sandboxes, SSH, like you're SSHing to another remote machine, or something that helps you run sandboxes like Daytona? So in this case, I'm going to keep it local. So I'm going to choose local. And then it's asking me about what are the maximum tool calling iterations per conversation I will want my model to do. So for higher tax, it might be higher than 90, but 90 is kind of like a perfect choice to choose at this point. So now it's going to be asking me for some other settings. For in this case, I'm just going to choose default for tool progress display. So I'm just going to say all context compression. So when you have lengthy conversations, so the model need to summarize it at some point. So you want to choose like the threshold where it summarizes. So at this point, I'm going to choose the default, and then that's it. So here they're talking about how it resets. So I'm going to say inactivity plus daily reset. So this is the recommended one. So you could choose anyone that suits your use case. So for me, this is okay. So inactivity timeout, I'm going to go with the default as well. Daily reset hour, I'm going to go with the default as well. Messaging platform. So this is where you actually connect things like Telegram, Slack, Metrics, MetaMost, or even WhatsApp. So in this case, I'm just going to leave it like it is. I'm not going to configure it here. But if you have, for example, Telegram, you could go and search for a special user called the bot father, and you're going to create a bot. And all you need to do is copy the token and you paste it, and then you'll be able to chat with your agent via Telegram. So that's it. So here, configure CLI. So I'm just going to choose done. I'm done configuring. So I'm just going to say done. So now you're going to see that we are done with everything, and then we're going to be able to now use Hermes to chat. So now we are done. So you see here, it's actually asking me, because Hermes has updated this file, which is not like a file that makes Hermes to be available in the terminal. Whatever terminal you create, Hermes is going to be available. So I'm just going to be sourcing this shell command. So here, I'm just going to say source this, and that's all. Now we can get Hermes. So we can type Hermes. So Hermes have two modes. It has a TUI mode. So TUI mode is a more like advanced mode where you could use your mouse to select, or you use the default one. This default one will work for most shells. So you just choose Hermes, or you could use -TUI. So if you want to see all the commands that are available for Hermes, you could also say Hermes-help, and this is going to show you like how you should go about using Hermes. So for now, we're just going to say Hermes, and then we're going to press enter. And then this is going to display like the Hermes shell. We're going to give it some time to boot. It's going to come up. So you see, you say now's Hermes AI agent framework. So let's wait for it. Hey, Hermes is up. So you could see 29 tools. Welcome to Hermes. Type a message or /help commands for more. So now we can just start like playing with it. So here, one of the things I want to show you is that if you're not okay with your current model, you could still change your model. So you could just come /model, and this is going to give you the ability to, example, change your model. So you could change your model and select another model. So when you switch to the model, you give it some time, it's going to switch to that model as well. In this case, I didn't actually do any change. So let me actually do a change. So here, I'm just going to come with model, and then it's going to select the model. So you see here, because I have other providers that I also registered, for example, I have GitHub Copilot, I have like Gwenpa local. So I have models locally on my machine. I have on-slot models and more. So these are all my own custom providers I set up. So for ZAI, we could change. So I could use OpenRouter models as well. So I will keep to ZAI, and then I'm going to choose a different model this time around. So which is the 5V Turbo. So which is actually very good as well. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is tools. So Hermes comes with some tools. So you could, for example, see tools. So there's tools, how to manage tools, and list available tool sales. So let's see what the tools that we have here is going to show. So for example, you see we have so many tools. So we have like memory, save durable information, we have search, we have delegate tasks, we have execute code, run Python script, and we have a lot of tools. So tools is how the agent is able to do his work. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is skills. So if you put /skills, and then you could do like -help here, and then you're going to see like all what you could do with skills. So you could search a skill. For example, if I want to install a skill that helps me work with Kubernetes, so I could say, for example, Hermes skill, then I could say search. So I could search all the skills. So Hermes, then I could say search. So you could see here, or browse all available skills. Search here, search registry for skills. So we're going to use search. So we're going to say Hermes skills search, and then we're going to provide like what we want to use, like what we are looking for. So I will say Kubernetes. I don't know if I'm spelling it well here. So you see command in progress. We're going to give it some time. So it's going to search. So you see, these are all the skills that will make your agent perform very well. So you could choose to install any of the skill as well. You could decide, for example, to do /skill, and then you could list your skills. So you could say skills list. I think, oh, sorry. So here I could say skill. So I didn't spell it well. So skills list. So this is going to give me all the skills that I have. So you see here, I have like so many skills that I'm using. So some of the skills are actually being created. So the way Hermes works is that as you're working, Hermes is actually creating skills for you out of the box. So this is actually great. So example, you could see I have a skill that helped me fine tune LLMs and so many other skills. I have a skill here for Onslaught. I have a skill for Subagent. I have a skill for PhD here and more. So you could see this is how we work with skill with Hermes. So let's talk a bit about the .hermes directory. So this directory is actually very important because this will be able to show you how Hermes actually works. So we're going to be going through some of the files, and with this, you'll be able to have a proper understanding of how Hermes actually works. So you see here, there are so many directories here as well, but you see your cron jobs. I'm going to be talking about this in a moment. So this is, you could schedule like tasks with Hermes, and this is where they are going to be defined. So the Hermes agent itself is living here. So you could see it has like, this is kind of like the source code for Hermes CLI and more, the plugins, plans, whatever. So, but one of the things you should note here is memory. So you see memory file here. So let's talk about this. So memory is where Hermes kind of like stores stuffs about you as you work. And then you have like so many other things. You have like your section file. So for each of your sections, Hermes is actually dumping some files as well, so that it enables you to remember exactly. So that's why you could resume sections. Coming to that much later. So this is where your skills live. So this is how your skills are being grouped, and this is where they live. So for example, if we go to email skills, you could see the skills and the skill description here. So you could see here, there's this one called dog food that comes by default. So you could see what the skills actually does here. And then these are all your skills. They're actually stored in this directory. So look at this directory as kind of like the working folder of Hermes. So this will enable you kind of like understand Hermes a lot. So there are places, for example, where you could configure your model. So let me talk a bit about config.yaml. So config.yaml here is where you have your model. So you could see here, this is where I could actually set my default model in this YAML file. So this is my default model. These are the providers that I have. So you could see the models that I'm actually using locally here. So you could see here that this is kind of like my NVIDIA provider. And then there are a whole lot of other settings that you could do here out of the box. I'm not going to go through all of them using this config.yaml. So this is much. I will take you through how to work with this folder. So you are not supposed to modify anything here at all. Just leave it as it is. You could actually configure it all using the terminal when you are starting your Hermes. Now we're going to be looking at schedule tasks. So we're going to be doing Hermes, and then I'm going to be doing cron. So if I do Hermes cron and put maybe -help, so you're going to see here, it's going to show me exactly what I can do here. So I could list, I could create a schedule job, I could edit, I could pause, I could resume, I could run the job, I could remove, I could check the status of the job, I could run due job once and exit. So this is all you could do. So let's see the jobs that I've actually set. So if I do cron and then I could do list, so this is going to show me all the active jobs that I have set here. So you could actually do it from the Hermes itself. You could tell it to create by just giving natural language. So you could say Hermes, and then you could, for example, describe a task that Hermes could do. For example, you could tell it create something that runs every morning and does A, B, C, and D. So let's try to do something here. So let's say create a task, or let's even call it a cron that runs every morning and tells me trending, tells me about top automation for GitHub repos. So this is what I'm going to do. And you see what is happening here behind the scenes. So Hermes is going to understand what I want to do, and it's going to create that cron job or that schedule tags as well. And that is it. You see, Hermes has actually created this cron. It said create daily top automation GitHub repos, and you see that is going to start running tomorrow. So now when we check for this cron, we could actually see exactly the number of crons we've set. We can actually run it immediately and do whatever we want with it. So here we're going to be asking Hermes how to work with Subagent. So I'm going to say, how do you set up? So I'm going to be using Hermes to set Hermes. So I'm going to say, how do you set up parallel Subagents? So let's see what it's going to say. And I'm going to send it here and wait for the result. So I'm going to let you here see by yourself. So you see, agent is it's actually showing me how to run parallel sub-agents. One is telling me delegate task, so that I should use this tool called delegate task and pass an array of tasks that every child task gets its own isolated conversation and terminal. So you see, two is to increase the concurrency gap. So you can increase Hermes config set the concurrency gap to mass concurrence children, for example, to 5. And that could also, two, use full process spanning for tasks that need to, so you could run in Hermes chat.q, build front end, you see, and then this could help you run all of them in the background. So you could use Hermes actually to configure Hermes. So the next we're going to be talking about gateways. So one process, all the platform, one command to set it up. So you could set up your gateway. So for example, if I do Hermes gateway setup or Hermes gateway status. So for status, I could see the status of my gateway. So if I do setup, for example, I'm going to see all the, so for example, I could configure email, SMS, I could, any way I want to communicate with Hermes. So for example, let's try one of the techniques. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try Telegram. So I'm going to choose Telegram. So not configured, I'm going to select it. So you see here, it's telling me create a token via bootfather on Telegram. So I'm going to be creating this token. So I'm going to search for bootfather on Telegram. So I'm going to go take this. So you're going to come to Telegram. So in Telegram, you're going to be searching for this new bot. So you see /new bot on that. You're going to chat with botfather. Botfather is available for all Telegram users. So you choose botfather and then you create a new bot. So in this bot, I'm going to be calling it um so now it's asking me to choose a name for my bot. So I'm going to give it a nice name. I'm going to say Hermes Father B. So it's a good. Now let's create the username. So I'm going to repeat this. So I'm going to use this. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put underscore bot at the end. So this is my username. Now botfather is going to create this bot for me. So I'm going to copy this token. So this is what I'm going to be taking to my terminal. So also I can open the chat bot. So this is where I will communicate with my Hermes. So let's go try that out. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paste that token here. So I'm going to say paste. So you see, this is the token that I copied from botfather and I'm going to press enter. So you see, now it's telling me allow user IDs, comma separated, leave for open access. So I'm just going to take all the defaults. Home channel ID, I'm just going to leave it empty. So now you see I have configured Telegram. So I'm going to say done. So let's try to see, say restart the gateway to pick up the changes. So I'm going to say yes. So the gateway is, so save is restarted. So let's go see what will happen if we decide to chat via botfather. So let's see what will happen if we decide now to use our bot. So here I'm going to click on start and here it's saying, so ask the bot to run. So this is what the bot needs to run. So here I need to say Hermes pairing and then approve Telegram. Here is your pairing code. So I'm going to copy the whole of this. So I'm just going to take it here and then I'm going to copy this part. So we're going to go to the terminal and we're going to run this. So back to the terminal. So let's approve this. So I'm just going to press enter. So you see approve user Sabico down Telegram. Now use the bot. You will be recognized automatically on your next messages. So let's go back to Telegram. So let's see now. Let's just say hello. Just maybe give me your name and see what, just to check. So you say no home channel is set for Telegram. A home channel is where Hermes deliver cron job result and cross. So I'm going to do like / set home. So I'm going to, let's see. So I'm going to be waiting for this. So the agent is actually running. But the major point here is to show you that we could be able to connect our Telegram to our agent using the gateway. So finally, I'm going to wrap it up by showing you a very important command. That's the command that you use to fix in case Hermes has any trouble. So that is Hermes doctor. So Hermes doctor is that command. So it's kind of like when your Hermes is sick and you feel like things are not working as usual. So this is where you kind of like, so it's going to check these basic structures to make sure they exist in the directory. It's going to check a lot of the stuffs and it's going to check your model connectivity. And if everything is fine, you're going to see most of the things fine. If it's not fine, you're going to see errors. So thank you for staying till this point. If you love my content, I would advise you subscribe. I'll keep bringing them up.